Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 1386. This week on Cars Yeah, we're celebrating the inaugural Chattanooga Motor Car Festival that takes place October 11th through the 13th in 2019 at the Westin Hotel in Chattanooga's West Village. You can learn more about this inaugural event at ChattanoogaMotorCar.com.
You're taking what your mind is saying is dangerous, don't go there, and saying it's okay. You have that mental aspect. You fight with yourself.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
What's the worst thing for your car's interior? No, it's not that milkshake the kid spilled in the back seat. It's the sun. Harmful UV rays cook your automobile's interior hour after hour when it's parked outside, even on a cloudy day. What's the solution? Covercraft Sunscreens. They protect your dash, seats, and interior finishes from those damaging UV rays while keeping the interior temperature tolerable, even on the hottest summer days. No more painfully sizzling seats and steering wheels for you. They unfold quickly and easily install, stay where you put them, and are custom patterned for an exact fit. The foam core acts as a cooling insulator, and you can get yours in different colors and finishes. And they even fold up easily and store under your seat or on the floor. I've used Covercraft Sunscreens for years, and they are a fast and easy solution that protect my beloved cars when they're not in the garage. Learn more and order yours at Covercraft.com. Want to protect your entire vehicle? Get a car cover from Covercraft. They have those too. That's Covercraft.com and tell them Mark sent you. Hello, automotive enthusiasts. I'm revved up and so excited to introduce today's very special guest calling in from the beautiful Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri, Dorsey Schroeder. Dorsey, are you buckled up and ready for a fun ride?
All my life, buddy. Never unbuckled.
Absolutely. Oh, this will be great. Dorsey Schroeder is the competition director for the Chattanooga Motor Car Festival's time trials. He is currently the competition director for the HSR and Trans Am Chief Steward, and since 2015 has served as race director for the World Challenge Series. As a member of the SCCA Hall of Fame, Dorsey's career as a race car driver has earned him 40 professional races and 242 starts, including 17 Trans Am Series wins. In 1971, at the age of 18, he became the first person under the age of 21 to be issued an SCCA national competition license. He won numerous championships throughout the 90s and in recent years competed in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship races at Daytona and Sebring in the prototype class. He has served as a color analyst for Fox Sports 1 and was a color analyst for the Speed Channel when it was around. So I'm hoping I can learn a little bit from you today, Dorsey, as a broadcaster. I have told our listeners just a little bit about you. Would you take a brief moment and share a little more about your racing career and a very obvious passion that you have for automobiles?
Well, obviously, being the youngest in 1971 makes me pretty old.
Well, I'm right there with you, buddy. It's a good thing to be old. That means we're still here.
That's better than the other, I guess, you know.
Yes, absolutely.
I've spent my entire life in the automotive industry racing, and you know, my dad was a car dealer, and he was a racer also. And so I grew up in it. I mean, I'm a product of the environment, if you will. And, you know, and certainly have had my share. It's kind of interesting. I mean, one of the neatest things in the world is the fact that, you know, 1971, you think about what the cars were then and, you know, what racing was in 1971. And then fast forward it to now, and the technology level is just rampant crazy compared one thing to the other. I mean, a race car in 71 was a hot rod. It was somebody's idea from the backyard, from the garage, how to modify a car and make it quicker. And there wasn't much technology to it, and there wasn't much parts availability to it either. So, I mean, basically the car back then was you go get Coney shocks, which were the only shocks that were performance shocks. And we didn't know if they were good or not, but they said they were, so we bought them. Brake pads, same thing. There wasn't a lot of brake pad technology. There wasn't a lot of race tire technology. I remember running these Firestone, we call them chicken treads. They had these little chicken footprints on them. They weren't slicks yet, but, you know. So you go from that and you go through 48 years of development and of learning, and you get to kind of where we are now. It's all I've ever done. For me to get into the, to sustain a life and sustain a business in racing is extremely difficult to do over a long, long period of time. So you have to be adaptable. You have to be able to duck and dive and find ways to continue on. And some of that was television. Some of that was, everything. You just, you did what you have to do to stay in the business. And, then you bob and weave just like anybody else. There's ups and downs in the sport. There's ups and downs in every career, but to stay there and to be committed to it takes a big endeavor. That's what I've been about.
I feel a little deja vu-ish here because yesterday we had your good friend Jim Pace on the show. And between you two Southern boys with your accent and your careers and lives, I feel like I'm talking to the twin brother here or something. It's pretty cool.
You know what? Here's a funny deal. Jimmy Pace, when he started his career, and I don't know if he told you the story or not, he was in line to be a doctor as his father is.
Yes, I know.
And he gave up that career because he wanted to race. And I was his driving instructor at Skip Barber Racing School. I met him when he made that decision, a career move in his life, and I was his instructor. And then I was his younger.
I didn't know. Oh my gosh! Wow,
I was his instructor, and then I was his younger brother Will came through next as a student, and I was his instructor. And then his father, the doctor, comes through, and so I taught the entire family, and they all raced together, all three of them. And at Skip Barber Racing School, where I was an instructor at the time. And so I've known those guys for a long time.
Well, we are all in the family here then. This is pretty cool, pretty cool. Well, listen, as we continue on your journey, I always like to ask my guests for a success quote or a mantra, something that's been important in your life. It's a nice way to get the inspirational tires turning here on Cars. Yeah, I know you love to drive, so Dorsey, take the wheel.
One of the things... I started driving, so I was driving race cars when I was, 14, 15 years old, but you couldn't turn pro. You couldn't even get a license or go through a driving school back in the day until you were 21 years old. The SCCA, Sports Car Club of America, they changed their ruling about that. In 1971, they decided that they would allow 18-year-olds. Now, you had to go through a lot of stuff. You had to get documentation, you had to get your parents' permission, you had to get everything notarized and signed off. In 1971, they allowed 18-year-old drivers for the first time in the history of the United States, and I was the very first driver ever to accomplish that in 1971, and I had just turned 18 years old by a month. January 1st came around, my birthday is February 5th, and so I was working. I already had an autocross car, which is a timed event car, similar to what we're going to do in Chattanooga on the time trials. It's one car at a time against the clock. And so I was doing that kind of thing back in high school. I was a senior in high school, but I was the first one licensed. So when I heard this decision came down that I could be 18 and drive, I just went ahead and took the windshield out of my car, cut the windshield pillars off and the roof off, and my dad, who was a car dealer, and like I say, he raced before. He came in for dinner one night, went to the garage and saw this car I was driving to high school had changed quite a bit, and so we sat down at the dinner table that night, and he said to me, "Hey, I went by your car. I see it's got no windshield on it." And I said, Yeah. And he said, "Well, why would that be?" I said, "Well, they changed the ruling, that you can be 18. So I'm going to start racing next month. He goes, really? I went, yep. You know, and so my mom's sitting there looking at me, and my dad's sitting there, and my brother and sister, and then he goes, well, let me ask you this question. What are you going to take to school when you drive to high school in the morning? I said, well, I figure I'll take Mom's station wagon, and I'll take that to school. He goes, that was your second mistake.
Yeah.
So anyway,
oops.
Yeah. So anyway, it all came to be, and I ended up being the youngest guy, and started. Yeah, He said, no, you're going to drive that car to school. So I did drive that in the winter of 1971, St. Louis, Missouri, and it was really cold. And
yeah, no kidding.
So I had the first Bell Star helmet, which was the first of the looked like a diving bell on your head. And so I'd put that helmet on in the morning, and I'd go to school with a coat on. It was cold. Whew. It was about 30 miles from the house to the school.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, but so I did that, and every day I didn't get much date activity after I did that, but I don't know.
Well, that's definitely the story that instigated your passion for racing. That's for sure. My gosh. It's pretty funny. I guess if you only have one car to drive and race, you just make them both work. And things were certainly different back then. So that's hilarious. Well, you've picked a career that was fraught with ups and downs. And I talked about this with Jim. I've had hundreds of racers on this show. You know, one weekend you're a winner, the next weekend you're looking for a ride. It's a tough haul. And the fact that you and somebody like Jim have made an entire career out of it, moving into television and teaching others how to drive and being a mentor and a coach and all the things you've done, they're just fantastic. But no doubt you've been faced with some challenges, maybe a failure or two. And I'd love for you to walk us through one in detail, but more importantly, what were the lessons learned from that so that you could move forward?
You know, you never know what obstacles are going to come your way in the racing endeavor. There's all the normal simplistic things that at the time seem like they're insurpassable, blown up engines where you don't have enough money to buy another one, or wrecks that you just can't have enough money to fix at the time, and the next race is coming up, it's in your face, and you got to do something. Yeah, but those are little obstacles. When you look back at over a long time frame, you know, you see worse things than that, where your friends get injured or even killed, and that takes a big part out of it. You know, because that's the reality of what we do, is that sooner or later somebody will get hurt and somebody will have a catastrophe, and then you've struggled through all of life's turmoil, but those are hard, and to get over those are hard.
Yeah, you know, and the day we're recording this, yesterday we lost a past cars guest and a racer, Jesse Combs. This is a
land speed record. Quite an extraordinary woman. And
incredible person. Yeah.
You know, the people that do that, they take the biggest risk yet. When you're doing land speed on the water or on the land, you know, you're pushing envelopes that are way up there. I mean, they're just like not conceivable to a normal person. As most of the race cars nowadays, even current race cars, are not conceivable to a person. It's hard to convey to someone who just drives a street car, even a fast one. You know, even something, a hot rod that you built, it's still so much out of the element that the new cars can obtain. The speeds and the G-forces they can generate, and their braking potential is so far above what most people can comprehend. I mean, that was one of the hardest things growing up. And going through ranks of racing, is that when you started getting into these prototype cars that are so potentially better than your mind can conceive, you have to trust the cars better than you are, and it is. And that's a difficult decision to make. You're taking what your mind is saying is dangerous, don't go there, and saying it's okay. You have that mental aspect. You fight with yourself.
Well, I've had hundreds of racers on the show, and I remember talking to some that the first time they'd go to Indy to race the Indy 500, and they'd be going through corners, and everything in their brain would be telling them to lift off. And their coaches would be telling them, you can't. you can't lift there. You got to keep your foot into it. And your whole sense is saying, what? What do you mean?
These cars, you run through a plateau. You go through, and as fast as your mind says you should go, and the car is very nervous and is very uncomfortable, and your mind is saying, back away, back out, you're going to wreck. And you haven't reached the potential of the car yet. The car then, at the next step, if you push it beyond that limit, through downforce and through, aero, picks up grip. And so when you blow through that plateau, all of a sudden the car is happy again. It's very comfortable now. But when you get to that point, when you get at that very exact level where things don't feel good at all, it takes a lot to push it through.
I can't imagine. Well, a big condolence to Jessie Combs' family and friends and her fans.
Absolutely.
Just a horrible loss. She was so wonderful. And having had her on this show, and I got to interview her at the Costa Mesa Car Show as well and got to meet her in person, she had a spirit about her that was really special, just a sparkle about her and a testament to living life to its fullest and doing what you dream of and being an inspiration. That was Jessie Combs. So,
it's funny because, I knowingly pushed myself to that limit. I knowingly put myself in harm's way. And when I would successfully complete a weekend, I always would treat myself to this monster dinner of steak and lobster or whatever. It was my reward for being alive,
Yes.
And it was, it's kind of why I got too much weight on me now, I think.
Well, that'll do it. Yeah, steak and lobster will do it. That's for sure. Well, I'll tell you what, let's have a little bit of fun here and talk about your first really special vehicle. Now, this could be a first car that you finally got, or maybe it's the first time you got into what you deemed a real race car and you sat there and went, okay, I made it. This is where I want to be. What was that vehicle? Maybe share a memory you have about that ride.
I was spoiled having a car dealer father and so forth. My dad did something that was unique to both me and my brother. And he gave both of us, when we were like 14 or 15, a car from the dealership that got traded in or whatever that needed a lot of work. And he gave it to us. He said, okay, mine was a Fiat Abarth, which was a pretty cool car at the time, 67. And he said, okay, here's the car, but, it needs this, and this done to it. You got 2 years before you're 16. He goes, I'll pay for it all, but you're going to do it all. And we had this English parts manager, service manager named Victor Yardley, long deceased, rest in peace, who was a consummate English, gentleman.
Well, what a name, too.
Yeah,
I mean,
Victor Yardley. How can that not be a race thing? So anyway, he taught me and he helped me with all the things I had to do to fix my car. My brother did the same thing. And so, that first car, which is still in existence and still in perfect shape, I sold it to a guy after I quit racing that. And he's had it in the garage now. His father passed away and had a big printing business, and so he took over that printing business, and he lost his lust for cars, and then that car is sitting there, and I want it back really badly. So I went from that. That was an H production car. It was pretty slow. It was like almost the slowest class, if not the slowest class, in the SECA conundrum of cars. And then all my dad's buddies who, were racing and messing around too, said, hey, your kid there's pretty dang good. Get him out of that old car and give him something. So I went from the very slowest class to Formula B, which is now Formula Atlantic, which was the very fastest class. And that was an old Brabham BT35, which now is worth $1 jillion. And, and I made this monster transition from this slow little old street car, foreign car, into just short of Formula One. And I drove the whole first year. We bought it. There's no instruction manual when you buy a race car.
No.
Right.
No.
So I didn't know that it was a 5-speed transmission, and I didn't know where first gear was. And so I drove it like a 4-speed. I started in second gear, which is up and forward. And it took me a year or so before I even
Hey, there's another gear here in overdrive.
Yeah, and I didn't know how to adjust shock absorbers or ride heights or, roll bars or any of that. I just drove it to my plant potential. So, I mean, that was a special time in my life. And then, like I said, the coolest thing in the world is to sustain a 40-plus year career and to learn as you go, to the extent that I am now, that I have an understanding of aero and suspension and engine management, and engine stuff and electronics. I would have never, ever, ever achieved where I am without racing.
How fun. Well, cool little car. Is there a vehicle you've owned in your life that you've let go that you wish you still had? Is it that Fiat?
That would be the only one, because I've had so many other things, and going through that many years of having all these different cars that you don't own them, you just drive them, and then, I mean, when you look at, like, I drove the Audi LMP1 R8 and it's the baddest thing on the planet, never got beat ever, so I mean, to get to that level, then there's nothing that's comparable on the street, and even if there was, I wouldn't want it, because I'm such a down in the Florida Keys where I live, the speed limit's 45. So what are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you get to drive fast on the track, and that's where everybody should be driving fast. Don't be doing it on the streets. It's too dangerous these days. But,
I mean, boats are still my passion, and they're crazy. I posted on if you look up my go online and look up my internet Facebook, I posted a boat that went by my house yesterday morning at 205. Now,
what?
Yeah, that seems weird for most people, but not here. Lake of the Ozarks.
Oh my!
Is home to the fastest boats in the world. 205.
What is that, like a cigarette boat or something?
No, that was a 38-foot. It's called an MTI, which is a catamaran with twin 1,500 horsepower V8s in it, and that's
my gosh,
actually slow because the record down here is 244.
Oh, geez.
With a 52-foot boat. Yeah, we have a race every year called the Lake of the Ozarks Shootout, or LOTO Shootout. And that just ran last week. Unfortunately, I wasn't here. I was at a race somewhere else. But it is incomprehensible as to the speed and to the amount of people that show up and from all over the world. And it's just, think about the semi-trailer that holds all the race cars for NASCAR. That's 53 foot long, but it's only about 10 foot, 12 foot wide. So the boat's 53 foot long, and it's 20 some odd feet wide, and it goes 244 miles an hour.
Incredible. Yeah, those things are mind-boggling. They scare me. I mean, it's just
They should too. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, they should. Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about driving and having fun. I want you to talk about your role in the inaugural Chattanooga Motor Car Festival, being the competition director. Jim shared a little bit yesterday about what this new event's all about, but you're in charge of a fun part of this event. So let's talk about that. What's going to involve?
Well, Byron DeFore is quite an eclectic guy. Strange to some, whatever. He loves his cars. He put this thing together out of his own mind. I drove for him in the 50-plus racing car the last, Jim Pace drugged me out of retirement after 14 years. I don't know if I hate him for that or not. I'm still thinking about it. But anyway.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah,
Thank you, Jim.
He drags me out of retirement and puts me in this situation, but they're all really cool guys. They're all older guys. 50 plus is supposed to be 50 years old or more. Well, it should be 60 plus, quite honestly, because we're all up there a bit. But, you talk about Byron, he runs it, Jim runs it, me, David Hinton, and, Brian Johnson from AC/DC. You couldn't have more fun than what we had. But we took it serious. I mean, we ran as hard as we could, and we did good. We came in 7th at the 24-hour Daytona 2 years in a row, and then it was a monumental effort. And so then Byron, out of the clear blue, decides he wants to do the Chattanooga Motor Fest, and he's like, "What do you think about?" Because Chattanooga is an absolutely beautiful area. It's a gorgeous town. He has invested a lot of his time and money, and his brother and everybody. And he said, I want to do like a Goodwood in Europe, and I want to put on a time trial, and I want to put on a rally and a Concours d'Elegance, and you can't tell him no.
No.
He doesn't do no.
He's not a no guy.
No, he's not a no guy. And so off he goes on this deal, but he's contagious. You know, if you sit there and listen to him, if he starts going down a path, he'll draw you into it. And then so this hill climb is going to be a hill climb similar to what, Goodwood is. It's going to go down through the bridges, down alongside the river, and it's going to run up the hill 1.3 miles. And at the very top, there'll be a U-turn at the top at 180. It'll all be blocked off and barricaded off, and the cars can go up there. And we're going to have every kind of car from old race cars, pre-war, all kind of that, like that, up to the most current stuff. And current supercars are just unbelievable. A C8 Corvette or McLaren or one of these cars is beyond, like I was talking about before. It's not what people can comprehend as being fast because they've never felt anything like that. And it's electronically controlled, traction control and braking and so forth. So we put up a course, and it's not a race course. It's a street. We're going up the street, and we're going to put hay bales and things on the side to try to protect stuff that's in the way. But I mean, this is one of those Walter Mitty deals, where I want to be a race car driver. I'm going to take my 700 horsepower car and run up this thing as fast as I can. And so I help design it, and we're trying to figure out, this is where it gets difficult. Older cars are slow. They're not going to go that fast, but newer cars, more modern cars are incredibly quick. And so we need to make it as safe as we can, yet still for the crowd, the spectators, put on a show. And so everything's exposed downtown. The paddock, where the paddock is, where all the race cars are staged and where the guys are working on them and where they'll be when they're not on the track. And you can walk up in there and you can touch those cars and you can shake the hand of the driver that's going to drive. And, you can be there and listen to the roar. And I guarantee you one thing, when these powerful cars start up that hill, even though the West End, which is the main base for the whole thing, is 6-10 blocks away, you will feel it. You're going to feel, not going to only hear it, you're going to feel it. I mean, that's one of the amazing and wonderful things about racing that television doesn't cover. No matter how good we were, or no matter how good we tried to be, you can't replicate the sound, you can't replicate the smell, you can't replicate the vibration that happens. And so to be there is monumental.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I think it's a really cool deal. And anyone who's watched the races that took place in Goodwood, where they run up the hill, will understand exactly what we're talking about. I'll tell you, my wife's never really been into cars. She tolerates my passion, and she loves and champions my passion for cars. But when we were first married back in the early 80s, they were racing, IMSA GTP cars were racing at the Del Mar Fairgrounds.
And I did that race 3 times.
Did you? Okay. Well, we probably watched you run.
You did. You definitely did.
We could literally walk there, and I convinced her to come and watch the races. She kind of did it begrudgingly. She became a race fan that day. I mean, she just said, this is the way you watch racing. You watch it live.
That was a difficult track, too. I'll tell you that.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
I mean, La Jolla, that was a horse race track. Around it.
Exactly. Yeah.
My daughter
fun,
lives there. That's ironic that you even bring that up. My daughter's a performer. She's a singer-songwriter. And,
okay.
She lives in La Jolla and performs there all the time.
Well, that's where I grew up, La Jolla, and Del Mar is just the next city north. And so when my wife and I got married, that's where we lived. And she really loved it. I mean, she came home all excited and fired up. So that's pretty cool. Well, I'll remind our listeners, just go to ChattanoogaMotorCar.com. You can learn all about this event. It's October 11, 12, 13. And if you're fortunate enough to be in that part of the world, you should go and attend this event. Have some fun. So Dorsey, up next is the last lap before we put the pedal to the metal. Let's say thank you to today's Cars Yeah sponsors. When you want proven performance, there's one brand that's been around since 1938. That's Edelbrock, building the finest American-made performance products for the street and track. Edelbrock's products are designed and dyno-proven to deliver maximum results. Edelbrock has thousands of made-in-the-USA performance products for all makes and models. From their new AVS2 carburetor and innovative ProFlow 4 EFI for your muscle car or truck, to superchargers for your daily driver and more, visit Edelbrock.com to check out the latest products for your ride. And when you're ready to check out, enter CARS YEAH in the coupon code and get 10% off your order. That's Edelbrock, automotive performance since 1938. You take care of your cars, but who takes care of your investments? Tune-ups aren't just for engines. Updating your financial plan is important too. Your GPS may take you from A to B, but it won't help you on the road to financial freedom. For that, you need a good co-pilot and a very trusted advisor. Chris Kimball, CFP, is just the man for the job. He'll guide you down that road without driving you crazy. For over 25 years, Chris has helped people just like you and me with their financial planning and investments. With a master's degree in financial services, he is eminently qualified, and he's a car guy too. Learn more at chrisvkimball.com or call 866-ON-A-PLAN. Securities through Money Concepts Capital Corp. Member FINRA SIPC. CK Financial Services is not affiliated with Money Concepts Capital Corp. Are you looking for a way to get your products or services into the ears of thousands of automotive enthusiasts around the globe? I can help. This is Mark Green here at Cars Yeah, and I'd be honored to be an influencer and ambassador for your brand in a unique and personal way. 5 days a week, thousands of subscribers and listeners enjoy the Cars Yeah podcast and website. Contact me today and I'll show you how at mark@carsyeah.com or connect with me through the Cars Yeah website at carsyeah.com. All right, Dorsey, I have a bit of an introspective question for you here. I'm going to get into your brain a little bit. If you woke up tomorrow and you were a car, not what you want to be, but you were actually manifested into a car, what would you be and why?
I'd be an Italian car. Ferrari would be the top of my list, but if I didn't achieve that goal, then I would be something just short of that. A Maserati or an Oscar or something from the 50s that I think was the sexiest, absolutely best sounding, just bad little car the whole world ever seen.
I love it. I love it. Well, we are entering the last lap here. This is a place you've been many times. The white flag is out. Time to put our foot into it. And I'm going to fire off a series of questions and ask you to give our listeners some quick blips of the throttle answers. So here we go. What's the best automotive or racing advice you've ever received?
Be safe.
Yeah, all the time, everywhere. Would you share one of your personal habits you believe has contributed to your many successes over the years?
Concentration, commitment.
Yeah, definitely, especially being an endurance racer. Now, how about a resource? There's so many these days. Is there one you'd like to share?
The Ford Motor Company helped me beyond belief. Jack Roush and the entire Ford community, they covered me. Nice.
Yeah, great cars for sure. Love the new Ford GT. Got to see a bunch of those when I was down in Monterey, Pebble Beach Car Week. Oh, man, those things are sexy.
Yep.
Great looking cars. Now, if I could arrange for you to have a drink or a meal with anyone in the automotive industry, living or deceased, who would that be?
Well, I've had a lot of drinks and a lot of dinners with a lot of guys, so I'd have to reach way back and go Jim Clark.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Wouldn't that be cool? Jimmy Clark. Definitely. Now, how about a book? Is there a book you've read that you think our listeners would enjoy reading as well?
Well, Racing in the Rain made me cry.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you seen the movie yet?
No, and I won't.
You won't. You don't want to be crying in the theaters. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's a great book. Garth Stein was a guest on the show here. He lives up here in the Northwest near me. And I tell you, when I had him on the show 3.5 years ago, he was just kind of dreaming about a movie. And here we are. Thanks to Patrick Dempsey.
Patrick Dempsey came in there and bought the rights to that. And I talked about that, but I told him I wouldn't go.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you something funny, Dorsey. I was listening to the audiobook, working in my side yard. It was a couple summers ago, and we got to the end. It's sad. I'm not going to give anything away, but it's rather sad. And my neighbor walks around the corner, and I guess I had some tears in my eyes, and she goes, "What's wrong?" And I go, oh, you're not going to believe what happened. And I'm not going to give it away.
Good book.
Yeah, but I said, this is a great book. And she just kind of laughed and she goes, a book about racing. And I said, well, it's a lot more than racing. But,
yeah.
Most definitely.
I'm a dog guy.
All right, Dorsey, we're up to the checkered flag here, a place you've been many times. I'm going to ask you a question and see what kind of answer you come up with. I'm going to buy you any cool collector car, vintage race car, whatever you want today. But there are a couple rules to this game. One is you have to drive it. No garage queens allowed here. Also, you can't sell it to buy a bunch of other toys with, so that little trick's off the table. But it's the only collector car you can have in your garage. So that makes your choice very important. What can I buy you?
Well, that's a tough one right there. I mean, off the top of my list, I'd say F40. But if I look back in time, I can think of some pretty cool stuff that was, in the day, Lancias and things. If you got to drive it on the street, F40 would be really cool. There's no doubt about that. I think that was, in my day and time, it was one of the most sexy cars I've ever seen. And I was proud and still am proud to beat the factory team with two of those at Watkins Glen in the New York Times 500 in my Mercury Cougar. So beating those guys. Well, and we exchanged drivers. Me and Robbie Gordon exchanged with Elio De Angelis, and I don't even remember who.
Oh my gosh!
But that was a monster moment for me. I'll never forget that.
Oh my gosh! Well, I think that's a great choice for a guy who's been there, done that. Dorsey, you have taken me on a great ride today. I had so much fun talking with you. I want to thank you for sharing your journey. Could you offer us a little parting piece of wisdom or guidance before you drive off into the sunset in that Ford F40?
Never exceed your abilities. Be safe and have fun.
Absolutely. And again, what's the best way for our listeners to learn more about the inaugural Chattanooga Motor Car Festival?
Chattanooga's building that. Thing's going on like crazy right now. We've got sponsorship from Volkswagen of America. We've got sponsorship from Coca-Cola. You can't get on any website without finding ChattanoogaMotorFest.com. Look it up. It's going to be an absolute blast. It's not just the race, the hill climb. There's a Concours d'Elegance. There's a rally that goes up through the mountains, beautiful Chattanooga that time of year. And there's car shows. I mean, this will be the biggest car deal going on, and it's going to be worth being there.
Absolutely. I'll remind our listeners it's going to take place October 11, 12, 13 in 2019 at the Westin Hotel in Chattanooga's West Village. Go to ChattanoogaMotorCar.com and learn a lot more. Dorsey, thanks for being so generous today with your time and expertise and for sharing your amazing life experiences with the Cars Yeah listeners. Until you and I talk again, I'll see you at the Chattanooga Motor Car Festival.
Thanks, Mark. We'll have a beer together.
There you go. Hey, Mark Green here from Cars Yeah. Did you know you can now see me on the Cars Yeah TV show? It's a weekly visit to some of my past Cars Yeah podcast guests, and I take you along for the ride. You go behind the garage door and into their lives, their businesses, and you get to see what makes them successful. With tens of millions of viewers, Cars Yeah TV is making its mark. Cars Yeah TV is available on MAV TV and Lucas Oil Racing TV. You'll find MAV TV on Direct TV, Fubo TV, Fios by Verizon, or you can stream it through Lucas Oil Racing Television online. And they said I only had a face for podcasting.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.